All right. I think we're live. Let's see on YouTube how things are looking. Doo-doo-doo. We are live. All right, folks. Let's wait for the masses to trickle in here. I see a comment, so that's positive. Big day, big day. And Jen and I are tag teaming on this one, so we'll wait for the folks to trickle in. Let me know if you could hear me. If you could hear me, 1 2 1 2. Let me know if you could hear Jen.
Hello, guys. And guess what, Jordan? I am sending a text.
Awesome.
Get pumped up.
Awesome.
Get pumped up.
Good evening from the East Coast. Lot to discuss from Democratic Party gaslighting to coronavirus. Yes, we are live right now. To Nate Silver and the polling industry. We should be tossing the polling industry out with the bathwater. And many other discussions. And of course, we're here to grow. So smash that like button, thumbs up button right under the live stream.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
Jeffrey Epstein discourse.
Yes. Oh, Jeffrey Epstein too. Yeah. Faint signals. Hey, Jordan, did you figure out the membership issue? We'll talk.
No.
We'll talk.
Well, we have updates.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. So there's a lot going on, and hopefully we can sort it out. Most importantly, holy shyster. We're at 95,500 subscribers, so almost.
Jordan, isn't the word shyster anti-Semitic? I don't think you're
I was about to say a curse word, so I stopped myself because I'm trying that.
It's shnikes. When you stop yourself, it's shnikes.
Shyster is anti-Semitic?
Shnikes.
Since when is that anti-Semitic? So. No, it's not.
I'll look it up.
That's ridiculous. Look it up. My grandma used to use it. She's not anti-Semitic. Or wasn't.
All right.
All right. So we got 150 people watching. Smash that like button. Smash that like button. The more people that smash the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. Jen, I want to get to the gaslighting, but we got to start with coronavirus because it's out of control. You're not gonna. I don't know if you'll see this, Jen, but I'm about to show the audience. Here is. I think you sent this to me.
Yes, it is. Jordan, it is anti-Semitic, so.
Oh, okay.
But I guess, like, if you feel like you can use that, then go
I'm
for
a Jew, so I'll use it. Yesterday had 142,000 cases, another record. I think when we were in Philadelphia just a few days ago, it was like 100,000 was the record. Now we're at 142,000. Almost 70% increase compared to 2 weeks ago. If you look at the trend of basically this month so far, you see 76,000, 86,000, 91,000, 104,000, 121,000, 126,000, 125,000, 109,000, 133,000, 131,000, and 148,000 cases. And this is all happening as the current president, Trump, is in fetal position, eating cheeseburgers while ranting and tweeting against Fox News for his election fraud conspiracy. He's basically, waved the red flag, basically. White flag, excuse me. On coronavirus, doesn't seem like he cares that much. And we're still. I covered yesterday, Jen. Still seeing super spreader events. Marco Rubio was in Georgia campaigning for the Senate runoff. Nathan Perdue and the other one who's running in the Senate runoff, Republicans. And they were holding an indoor event where half the people weren't wearing masks. To the point that CNN, who I usually don't have a lot of to the point that sorry about the echo. Good now. To the point where the event that Marco Rubio was holding yesterday in Georgia for the Senate runoff candidates was literally half the people weren't wearing masks indoors, to the point that CNN's crew left. So it's out of control. Before we went live, you just told me that Chicago just issued a stay-at-home order.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you saw this earlier. Meanwhile, Democratic Party during a deadly pandemic, while all this is going on, Democratic Party tweets out this. You can't make this up. Where is that? Ooh, do I have it? Yeah, yeah, I got it. How wonderful during I tweeted out in response to this, Jen. The Democrats tweeted out, Democrats will always fight for greater access to health care and to make it affordable and accessible for all. No one should ever have to make a difficult decision between putting food on the table and filling a prescription. So, really, really happy that the Democratic Party during a deadly pandemic where the president is in fetal position doing nothing, and cases are skyrocketing to the point where we're probably going to have more stay-at-home orders. Hopefully, I've been saying we need one uniform stay-at-home order.
Yeah,
But people are
absolutely.
putting in the super chat, dark winter is coming. Well, it seems like Batman is not coming, if that makes sense. Get it? Dark winter, Batman.
Yeah. I think it's good. Obviously it's good. We need to have a shutdown. But it's not surprising, obviously, that the Democratic Party would put something out like that. It's despicable.
And the thing that's amazing to me about it is they're not in power right now. I mean, they will be, but Biden's not even in office yet. So they can be saying, we need to expand healthcare. They could be saying we should expand Medicare right now for everybody. And then when they get in office, of course, they'll just make excuses why they can't do it. But they're not even on messaging. They're not even on messaging saying, no, right now we need to toss everything out. Maybe we're not for Medicare for all in general, but right now we're headed towards potentially we could be heading towards 200,000 cases a day. We're on pace. We could be heading to 500,000 Americans dead by early next year. And obviously Trump is the president. The buck stops with him. The Republicans are in control of the Senate. Trump has basically sidelined Fauci and experts. He has made masks into a culture war. But essentially, I haven't heard much from Biden. The only thing I'm hearing from Biden is coming from I guess, his coronavirus advisor, who's kind of suggested maybe we do some type of partial lockdown, but not like in an urgent manner. Like he's not saying, Trump, what we need to do right now is lock down the country. He's basically saying we might
Yeah.
do that. I mean, I don't think every single day I just showed you that list. We're going up like 15 to 20,000 cases, and most of the states aren't really doing that much different. What do you think in terms of um, is there anything we could do, or we're kind of just at the mercy of a maniac in Trump who is more interested in his current grift and election fraud conspiracy versus the Democratic Party and Biden, who are tweeting out soliloquies about access to healthcare?
Well, so this is like a multifaceted thing, what you've just talked about. So on the one hand, we have Donald Trump, who, as you say, he's like a mixture of in fetal position or golfing, like planning his future media network, slash maybe like some part of him does think that he can be a maniac and still maintain control. Depending on who's talked to him last, I think is probably whether like what kind of mindset he's in. And it really is truly left up to the states how they're handling this. And it really is still a partisan issue. And I'm lucky here in Maryland, Larry Hogan, even though he is a Republican and I don't agree with his policies, for the most part, he has handled COVID much better than his Republican compatriots, if that's the right word. I was, this, Jordan, I was terrified. So my youngest son they haven't opened public schools yet, but they were about to, like it was imminent. And I had several conversations with Jordan. I was like, I am terrified. I don't know what to do. I don't think it's right to send my kid back to school. So I have to make the decision now to like make my son really, really sad because he's freaking miserable talking to a computer for 7 hours a day, He's a good kid. Like, he's doing his work. I'm lucky he's really intelligent and he doesn't have any behavioral issues. Like, he can sit and do it, but he's freaking miserable. So I have to make the decision to pull him out of school and homeschool him, or send him to school, which I don't agree with. But Hogan made the decision to, like, they're canceling it. They're not going back to school. Actually, I don't even know if that was Hogan. It might have been my county. I don't know. So I don't have to make that choice, but I think we need a nationwide lockdown. Everything needs to be locked down. It's ridiculous. It's horrible. It makes my stomach just drop seeing that list of from the early part of November to what it is now. And it's just going to get worse and worse because no one's taking action. And now we're in this position where we were in this sort of locked down situation. We all hated it. It sucked. It felt surreal and dystopian, where we would only go out to the grocery store. Everyone remember that. And then we slowly crept into, well, we would like maybe go outside, and then it crept into more and more. So I think like we need to pull back, go back to where we were. We're at phase 1, and pull way back. So now we have all of these people getting COVID. So let's hit up what the Democrats tweeted. We have all of these people getting sick. More people will get sick. We aren't even at the point, I think they say like day 18 is really when people start to die. We aren't quite at that point yet. We haven't seen the deaths that are yet to come from this latest spike. We're going to see those deaths coming very, very soon. And here we have these disgusting Democrats tweeting about access to freaking healthcare. How do people not get it yet? How do people who praise the Democratic Party not get it that access to healthcare is not the same as having healthcare? We have people say it all the time. It's cliche by this point. Like, I have access to a Lexus dealership. I have access to, I don't know, like I have access to everything in the whole world, but I can't have it because I don't have the money. We've hit on this point too, like Jordan's COVID test the other day, which we routinely, every time we have an infield reporting trip, we routinely get a COVID test just for safety reasons. And so we know that we aren't going to pass COVID along to our families. And his co-payment with health insurance was $100. So that's access to healthcare, that's access to a COVID test. But most families that have less than $1,000 of savings in the bank, and I would venture to guess that that's way lower nowadays with COVID and people losing their jobs, and savings are dwindling. And I think, the Democrats are disgusting in a way that's different from the Republicans, because they put a smile and like spray Febreze on something that's almost just as disgusting. And that's horrible.
So a few things to that. And everybody smash the like button. We got 520 people watching. 234 of you have pressed that like button. I need a whole lot more of you. Please press that like button. If you're new here, please do me the honor of subscribing to this channel. Jen, I have a couple things to say. Number one, for your son, maybe within the confines of the law, maybe we could have him do a little work for Status Coup if he's so miserable, There's plenty to do. I started working from a young age, so, that's just a thought.
Well, Jacob's done some work for us. He helped set up the Discord.
That's right.
The older one. He's 13, my older one.
Yes, he helped. So, number one, I've just determined to myself, Jordan, don't feed the trolls. I'm no longer going to respond to the Corona truthers. They're in the super chat. I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the tolerance. If you're this much of a lunatic that you think the whole thing is a scam, you don't think these people are dying of coronavirus, you think it's a conspiracy, whatever.
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna.
By this point.
I'm not gonna. I just can't respond. If you think all these people are dying of a cold, I just can't respond to these people anymore. Number two, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jen, but I think we both agree we're not advocating for a lockdown without stimulus. No lockdown
right.
without stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody put in the chat, that's not viable. A lockdown is not viable. I would agree without UBI or the government covering payrolls. We can't do a lockdown if small business owners are going to be screwed, if gig workers would be screwed. The people that have been on unemployment, the people that have gone since July without that extra $600 a week, everybody needs to be made whole, from the small business to gig workers to full-time workers. And we print money for war. We're headed to 20 years in Afghanistan. We print money so we can give tax cuts, deregulation, subsidies to the banks, fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, military-industrial complex. So we could print money for a few months and give it to the people for a change. So we're not talking about a lockdown without people having their normal pay coming in. But for the people saying this isn't viable, well, what is the alternative? What to you is the alternative? Just to have this runaway train of death every single day? The vaccine, if we are lucky, the vaccine will start being distributed maybe by the end of the year to the frontline workers, like healthcare workers, which it should go to them first. Then seniors should go to them. The masses are not going to get it, if we're lucky, till spring. And that's before we get into the shenanigans, because if anybody thinks this vaccine is going to be completely free, I remind you, we live in the United Corporations of America. Nothing is free. So, I don't know what to say. I think that when people say it's not viable to have a lockdown, then you're basically saying it's viable and okay and just what we have to do just to let, and by the way, the cases and death count, they lag. So the cases right now are skyrocketing every day, but the deaths usually lag about a week to 2 weeks after the case spike. So you're going to start to see a massive death increase. We are going to get to the point we were at in March and April, where 2,000 people are dying a day. It might surpass that, and I get it. I mean, I don't want to be, in my home all day. Nobody does. I understand that there are other things, anxiety, depression, domestic abuse that's gone on. But again, this is a out of control virus. And by the way, from Marco Rubio's event yesterday inside in Georgia, where half the people weren't wearing masks, to I think they're calling it the Million MAGA March this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Which we might be covering in D.C., where I got news for you, most of them aren't going to be wearing masks. I mean, what's the alternative? I know that the civil libertarians are very outraged by this notion, don't tread on me, I want to go out and I have a right to go out without a mask and whatever. No, you don't have a right. Your freedom to go out and act like an idiot is not greater than my right or Jen's kids' rights to live. That's not, and unfortunately, a lot of these Trump supporters, a lot of them they don't want to kill people. They're just badly misinformed. Perfect example, Jen, if you remember, when we were covering the super spreader event in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, a couple days ago, one of the, that 20-year-old who looked like, he just got out of a Skull and Bones recruitment. He was like, yeah, I'm not wearing a mask because I just got an antibodies test, so I'm good. I have the antibodies. Nobody knows what that means. The antibodies could last for a week. They could last for a month. They could be stronger for some people, not as strong for others. So people don't know what they're talking about. We have a president who is literally in an alternate reality. And by the way, I don't know if you saw this, Jen, but this morning it came out that literally, let me show this. Hold on. Literally. You know how he's asking for all this money for his quote-unquote legal defense fund? Well, guess what? Let me zoom in on this. Donations under $8,000 that are going for his lawsuits for quote-unquote election fraud? Yeah, any donation under $8,000 to what Trump is saying is an effort to challenge the election results will instead go to his political action committee and the Republican National Committee. So, I get it. Folks are, very nervous that there's a coup attempt out there, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but frankly, I think he's grifting. I think he's trying to raise money to pay down his campaign debt. I think he's trying to raise money possibly for whatever comes next, Trump TV, or him just laying in bed for the next 4 years, tweeting 100 times a day. But he's checked out, so we don't have a president in charge of this. And frankly, from what I'm hearing from Biden, you've heard some good things. I think it's a good thing that his main advisor on COVID is suggesting we might do some form of lockdown. But I think we're beyond suggesting. I think we need a lockdown, and we need people screaming about it. And I'm sorry if people don't like it. I know even some progressives don't like that notion. But, you know, we can't live in a society. We do live in a society where the economy and capitalism and the almighty dollar comes first. We need to snap out of that because public health should come first.
Yeah, and I will say, mea culpa, when when this all came about the first time, when we were all like grappling with what this meant. Jordan said, we need a nationwide lockdown, like we need to go on lockdown. And I said, well, hold on a second. Like that is coming from a place of privilege. Like it's okay for you and I because we basically work from home anyway, except for when we're in the field and like we determine if we go in the field. But for, the mom who pays her bills by like working at the local diner or McDonald's or whatever, it's just not an option. So now I guess grown and like come to understand that it has to be an option and our government has to be forced or should be forced to take care of that mom who works at the diner. Like the payroll should be covered. And so through this and out of this, that is a realization that I've had. Like, no, it isn't up to that mom to struggle through a pandemic and still work at the diner. That was faulty thinking on my part. So I've had a total mind shift on this point. So thanks, Jordan. You were right.
Are you saying I was correct this whole time?
It's hard. It's really hard for me to admit, but you were in fact correct.
Yeah, it's often the case, but that's okay. No, honestly, it's not an easy position. And by the way, to be clear, because I do see some people asking, we're not advocating for a lockdown without Medicare for all or Medicare covering the expenses for testing and treatment. You should not pay anything. I'm getting charged $100 copays to go get a test. I'm sure a lot of other people are getting charged for tests. I've seen horror stories. Just Google it. People leaving the hospital after 2 weeks of treatment with $1 million bills for coronavirus treatment. All of this needs to be covered by Medicare or some other way. We should not be paying a dime related to the coronavirus. Secondly, everybody. I don't care if you're a small business owner. I don't care if you're a gig worker, a full-time worker, a farmer. Every single person in America needs to get some form of UBI. I advocate $2,000 a month, which Bernie advocated for. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris advocated for that, but now she's kind of quiet on that because she has to moonwalk because she's part of the corporate administration now. We need UBI and or the government covering payrolls along with Medicare covering this. And if the Democratic Party won't advocate for this during a deadly pandemic, that's we're headed to 150,000 cases, then we're headed towards worse, a dark winter. Then, frankly, I'm not saying let's go protest. I don't think we should go protest right now. It's not safe. But something's got to give here because this is not a sustainable thing. And I don't think it's acceptable just to be like, all right, well, 500,000 people are going to die. Oh, well, that's just America. We got to keep the economy open. No. I
do have to break in because Mary Bishop, who is wonderful and we love, said, you guys just got a new cavalry member. Please welcome her. She is my 19-year-old daughter. Yay! Saying her last name is Tricky. Welcome her. Yay! So we welcome you. And Mary's daughter. Amazing.
Welcome, Mary. And real quick before we move on to the next.
No, Mary's daughter.
Oh, Mary's daughter. Awesome. Thank you, Mary, and Mary's daughter.
Very exciting.
And real quick, just to explain to people, because we've got some questions, we had a conference call last night with a web developer / tech company that's actually viewers. So they reached out to us when we explained that we have a major problem yesterday. Cliff Notes version, if you weren't here yesterday, our system is showing that we're losing like 20 to 30 members every day. That's abnormal for us. Some days, during COVID, we've lost 4 or 5 members a day. The last 3 weeks, we've started losing 20 to 30 members a day. Totally abnormal. More importantly, a crisis because that's our business model. We can't be losing 20 to 30 paid members a day. So we had a hour or so conference call last night with these web developers. They're great, and they are looking into it for us. And we've actually been getting a lot of emails from people saying, I just looked and I'm inactive, but I didn't want to be inactive. So I think our suspicions are correct, Jen, that there's some type of technical glitch going on, because I've seen about 7 to 10 emails so far from members doing what we asked them to do, which is go on statuscoup.com/account if you're a member and check to make sure you're active. And we've gotten several emails from people saying they never canceled, but it's showing up inactive. So we are working on it.
Yeah.
And anything else I'm missing with that?
Well, yeah, just to kind of basically we don't know what's going on, but it is really, really scary. And I've been very open about the fact that I've been physically ill over this because we don't have, with our membership, it's basically, you guys know, because a lot of you are members. We have people who join because you get great like content and stuff, but you join because you want to support us and you support independent media, you support the work we do. So it's usually people don't want to drop their memberships, you know, unless it's a financial difficulty or something. So to all of a sudden see dozens upon dozens of members gone, and like Jordan went for a walk one day, checked it before the walk, checked it like a couple hours later, and just a couple dozen members gone suddenly, like my heart sank. Like, what are we going to do? This is the backbone of our business. And it seemed weird, not only because members don't leave like that, like this was totally abnormal, but because we weren't getting cancellation emails like we normally would. Every time someone cancels, we get an email to one of our email addresses, and it just seemed odd. There was something off. So also our website, it's our fault, but our website is not built right. Like it's being a startup, we couldn't afford the thousands of dollars it costs to build it with like really solidly. So it's slapped together in certain ways. So I've just been heartsick over this. So we had, as Jordan explained, we had a viewer reach out who has a company that seems perfectly in line with this, got on a video call with us, really eased my fears a lot. They're working on it. So it sounds like, if you guys are tech people, like our site and our WordPress, it's throwing errors all over the place constantly. So it's very possible that it's a tech, there are glitches, there's just something going on, that it's not like people physically going in and canceling their own memberships. So that's the hope. And the hope is that this team, which if this works and once we get permission and stuff from them to announce who they are, like I will just scream their names from the mountaintops, like plug this team, this company everywhere. But the hope is that they can stop the bleeding and that we can then like rebuild from there on a much more solid footing. So in the meantime, I sent out an email today plugging our GoFundMe, because we are going to be, they're doing, right now, they're stopping the bleeding for us very generously at no cost, but we do plan to hire them to help us gain that solid foundation. So plug, if you can help us at all to finance that, our GoFundMe is open and we could really use your support there for sure to help us save the business, because really the membership is the backbone of our business. It's how we are stable. That's our solid income that comes every month. So I'll put the GoFundMe in the chat.
Jen, will you allow me to go on a rant?
Always. I love your rant.
So I want to get to Bernie.
Except when they're directed at me.
I want to get to Bernie and Bernie going after the progressive gaslighting. But real quick on coronavirus, I want to read to you, folks. Here's the situation in Flint, Michigan. Remember Flint, Michigan? 6.5 years later, no clean water. Happened under Obama. Obama just had the audacity to show up in Flint, Michigan in the last days before the election to campaign for Biden, said, acted like he was, yeah, I'm with you, Flint, even though I left you to die. Trump obviously hasn't done a goddamn thing for Flint, Michigan. 6.5 years later, still don't have clean water. They still don't have Medicare for all. People are still 6.5 years later getting rashes and other health disasters. People feeling faint in the shower from the water. These are people Jen and I speak with. It's not our opinion. We have sources, and we have been there between the both of us 20 times. We know what we're talking about. 6.5 years later, they don't have clean water in Flint, Michigan. Obama was the president. The Democrats were the oversight, had the oversight committee. They were in charge of it. Nobody's been brought to justice. And I don't know, Jen, I'm not a doctor, but I think if a whole city was poisoned, everybody, from the young people to the old people, are kind of equally immuno-challenged and susceptible to a deadly pandemic. Did they do anything for Flint for coronavirus to add extra protections for these people? Did they expand Medicare for Flint because of the water crisis? Absolutely not. And now we're seeing Hurley Hospital in Flint is at 98% capacity as new COVID cases are spiking. Hurley Hospital has the highest occupancy rate of any hospital system in the state of Michigan amid the most powerful surge of new coronavirus infections since the start of the pandemic. Tracking by the state of Michigan shows Hurley occupancy has risen to 98.2% as of Monday, up nearly 5 points 5% in the past 5 days. And this region of the state also shows the highest collective hospital occupancy rate in Michigan at 88%. Despite a 7-day average of 140 new daily infections in Genesee County, a Hurley spokesperson said COVID admissions are not the primary cause of the hospital's high occupancy, with just 31 cases as of Monday, up by just 4 cases since Friday. Well, Jen, as we know,
because unlike CNN, unlike MSNBC, unlike the New York Times, unlike the Washington Post, unlike all of them, you and I, between the both of us, have been there over 20 times since 2016. The hospitals have lied. The government has lied. And I don't trust that fucking hospital as far as I can see them to say, oh, only 31 cases are from COVID. Not a chance. McLaren Hospital, for those of you from Flint, they lied out of their teeth in 2014, 2015 about the amount of Legionella cases they had and the source. And I don't believe Hurley Hospital saying, yeah, we're at 98% capacity, but most of them are in because, they hurt they broke their toenail or something. No, it's coronavirus. And this is an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. I understand that over the last 4.5 years, the biggest scandal in America was the Russian boogeyman. I understand that over the last 4.5 years, the biggest scandal was Stormy Daniels. I understand that over the last 4.5 years, the biggest scandal was Trump's tweets and farts and whatever. I understand that he's a fascist. I understand that he's a threat. But you want to know something? When Americans are poisoned by their own government and then left to die by that government, Republicans and Democrats, I think that's more scandalous than Russia. I think that's more scandalous than the president bending norms. But you want to know why they don't give a goddamn? Because they're black, they're poor white, and they're in Flint. And more people in Flint, if you look at the numbers in Genesee County, Flint is in Genesee County. Genesee County has, I think, 405,000 population. Flint, 95,000. Flint and Flint Township make up 40% of the cases of the entire county. Well, why do you think that is? Because they've been poisoned. Because they have heavy metal poisoning in their body. Because they have neurological problems. Because they are immunocompromised. Because they have cancers, epilepsies, Parkinson's. We've seen it all. And occasionally, Jen, we get celebrities now and then. Hashtag Flint. Michelle Wolf, the comedian at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, dropped the mic. Flint doesn't have clean water, and then everybody's a Flint warrior for an hour. It's trending, and then nobody gives a shit again. But this is outrageous. That A, For those of you that don't know, Libby, Montana, 96% white, they had a massive arsenic issue. Asbestos, not arsenic. A massive asbestos issue. In Obamacare, you know what was snuck into Obamacare for the 96% white Libby, Montana, because of their massive asbestos problem? They got Medicare for all. What did 53% black Flint, Michigan get? A kick in the ass. And that is why you see Hurley Hospital at 98% capacity. That is why you see Flint and Flint Township as almost the majority of the cases in Genesee County. That is why more black people are going to die in Flint. That is why more poor white people are going to die in Flint. The media don't give a damn. I think Biden didn't say, I think Biden barely said anything about the Flint water crisis when he spoke there, I think 2 days before the election. So it's an outrage. And frankly, if you want to move Biden left, I don't think that's going to happen. But it's very easy, Jen, for the wine moms and the resistance owls and all these people to occasionally tweet about Flint when it's vogue. It's a lot harder 6.5 years later to keep talking about it, to keep going there, to keep investigating it, as you and I are investigating a follow-up right now. This is outrageous. I don't want to say Flint is, it's outrageous that people are dying everywhere. But you have communities that are especially vulnerable to coronavirus because they've been poisoned. It's not just Flint, Native Americans with the high cancer rates and the fracking and the mining and all that. And our government has done nothing. And it's outrageous.
Well, when you talk about Flint residents being immunocompromised, and that is a huge part of it, but it's compounded by, think about how important it is to wash your hands as part of this. Well, how do you wash your hands? The people in Flint are terrified to wash their hands. They often keep bottles of water next to the sink. They won't use the water that runs through their taps, and rightly so, because the water that runs through their taps is still contaminated. The piping that runs through their homes is full of lead. Like many have not had the pipes in their homes replaced because they can't afford to do so, and the corrosive material, the lead, it's all in their homes pipes. And even those who have had their interior plumbing, the piping replaced, it's still not necessarily good water. So many of them do, keep the bottles of water next to their sinks, but that's really expensive. And if they've lost their jobs, they can no longer afford to buy that water. The free bottled water is no longer available. Sometimes it's available through the churches, but then how do you find a way to get to the churches to pick up the bottles of water? And then how do you social distance in doing so? How do you afford the masks to go get there? And how do you afford the Purell, which hand sanitizer, it works in a pinch, but it works dramatically better to wash your hands with warm and soapy water. So you have immunocompromised people in poorer areas with a lack of the ability to simply wash one's hands. And it really all of those things stack on top of each other, and then they don't have healthcare. And if they do have healthcare, it's inadequate healthcare. And then they don't have the money to go get a COVID test, or maybe they don't have transportation to go get a COVID test, or so it's a variety.
Over 20% of Flint doesn't have transportation.
Yeah. And it's not walkable. Like these houses, it's not a city where you can just simply walk or take mass transportation. It's spread out. It's almost like suburbia in many areas. So not like nice suburbia. Like you can't walk everywhere. It's as simple as that. So there's problem on top of problem on top of problem, and these people are left on their own with no resolution. And so it's no surprise that this hospital, Hurley, is filled to the brim with patients. And it's also no surprise, like Jordan said, that they're most likely lying about the types of patients that they do have.
By the way, just so you understand that it's not only that this is an injustice. This whole crisis is corruption on top of corruption on top of corruption. When we say they're lying, we're not just spitballing. We're telling you they're lying because Flint is a cesspool with private interests trying to basically sweep the water crisis under the rug. Why are they trying to sweep the water crisis under the rug? Why are they trying to say the water is fine now? Because if it gets out that the water is still bad, that people are still getting rashes, that their eyes are burning when they shower, that people's hair still falls out in the shower. When we say people, we're talking about people we talk to actively today. Okay, this is not a year ago. People still having these symptoms from the water. Well, kind of hard to gentrify a city, which is the master plan there, to gentrify the city, push poor people out, push the poor black people out, which ain't just a Flint thing, that's happening everywhere. You can't do that if you still have an active water crisis. That's why hospitals have lied. McLaren Hospital has lied. I think Hurley Hospital is lying. The state of Michigan under the former governor was lying. And the current governor, Whitmer, who the New York Times and CNN has made into some resistance hero because she fought Trump, she is also doing nothing about this. So this is corrupt. If you are a status quo OGer, over the last 2 years, Jen and I have broken two massive stories. Number one, Snyder's administration, the former governor, literally cooked up the data. They cheated on the water testing to artificially lower the water levels to make it seem like the lead levels were now okay. And those are the levels that they used to declare mission accomplished, the water's meeting EPA regulations, and we could shut down the free water stations that residents so desperately relied on. Then earlier this year for Vice, we broke, not only did Governor Snyder, the former Michigan governor, not only was he warned a year before the water switch, again, a year before the water switch, that Flint using the Flint River as a drinking water source could cause bacterial issues, cancer-causing carcinogens. He let it go ahead anyway. We also broke that he found out about the deadly Legionella outbreak, a waterborne disease that killed, according to them, 12 people. According to reality, hundreds of people. He found out in October 2014 about Legionella. He covered it up. His administration covered it up because he was running for re-election as governor and he was starting to think about running for president in 2016. This is years ago. Nobody has been brought to justice. They don't have Medicare for all. Nobody's in jail. The media has given up on this story, and the people are suffering. So we're going to keep talking about it because it's outrageous. And we don't want to make it seem like we only care about Flint. There's plenty of communities that have been environmentally contaminated, environmental racism, that are especially susceptible to coronavirus. But I just think it is outrageous in this country that the corporate media, in their mad dash for profit, ratings, clicks over the last 4.5 years, have basically said to Flint, die peacefully. And we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So that's my rant. We'll clip it, post it tomorrow. Groove Echo, $20. Boo, Rule 303. Okay, Tanya H, £5. Support status, €5. Support Status Coup. What would we do without them? I agree. Who else do we got here? John War Jr., $5. I'm not going to say I'm a genuine we. The citizens are elected officials, court, to get the no more protest, but removal. I know how to do it. Okay, I don't know what you're trying to say, but I appreciate the super chat. Keep those super chats coming. We got 815 people watching, 600 likes. Smash that like button, thumbs up right under the video. Please subscribe to this channel if you are new. We're almost at 96,000. Our goal is to hit 100,000 before the end of the year, so keep it coming. Anything else you want to say before I move on, Jen?
I want to address really quickly, Silence is Violence Go Vegan asked if people died because of Flint water. So yes, absolutely. I think Jordan mentioned that the official tally is 12. PBS did an investigation that shows that the number is over 100. But I'm going to take it a step further and say that someday, and hopefully not too far off into the future, I'd like us to do a deeper dive into how many people actually died as a result of the water and as a result of what the water then sparked. Because Jordan and I, now probably 2 years ago, we did door knocking. And so we door knocked on around 500 doors in Flint. And what we were trying to find was whether the people who were testing water in the homes did so properly or gave the proper instructions to the residents. And so as a side note, that's like a wrong term to say because of the severity of it, but we also learned as part of doing that, very, very frequently, maybe every, I don't want to guess how many houses it would be, but it was a lot of houses. They would say, oh yeah, that person died, like my next door neighbor died, or that person 3 houses down died, or 10 people on this street died in the last year. So it was very, very, very frequent that we heard many, many people on a single street would die. And keep in mind that a lot of the streets in Flint don't have many people living on them because the houses are dilapidated and run down. And so people had to move out. So for 10 people to die on a given street is a lot in a year. So I suspect that a lot more people have died than anyone knows.
And we're not talking about like 80-year-olds. We're talking people in their 30s, 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
People without histories of cancer. So we're going to stay on this because to me, I don't know, call me old-fashioned, Jen, I kind of think an American city being poisoned by their government and then left to die by their government is a little bigger issue than the threat of Russia and other bullshit. Thank you, Artificial Morpison, $10. I sure hope Bernie denounces the DNC and the media for using Kasich to back their blaming progressives for the DNC-backed centrist moderate candidate losses. We're about to get to Bernie.
Ooh.
We're about to get to Bernie. Also, thanks for the GoFundMe donations. Now we're rocking and rolling.
Yay.
We got $50 from Deborah. We have Deborah $50, Todd $20, Robin $10, Anonymous $30. Woohoo! So we're less than.
Britton $5, Shirley $10, Madeline $20, Adam $25, and that's all just from this stream. We have more below that. That's amazing, guys.
So please keep it coming in the GoFundMe. We definitely need to raise more money to cover costs. I actually just increased, in addition to the other costs we talked about, we raised our data plan this month to 50 gigabytes, which is a lot more money for us, so that we could stay live for longer.
Like several $100s more.
Right. So definitely chip into the GoFundMe, Super Chat, and all those things. So let's move on to Bernard Sanders. Bernard Sanders got a lot of grief from some corners of the internet. A lot of folks calling him a sellout, weak, these kind of things. We've criticized him. I don't think he's a sellout. I think that there's, frankly, some people on YouTube going a little far these days. They're ranting about Bernie and AOC and Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush. And they're making you think that the biggest threat to democracy is not, Pelosi, Biden, Wall Street, or Trump, but, Cori Bush of the squad. But, I think Bernie was weak during the campaign, which I've said over and over again. I think Bernie, again, in 2016 and 2020, went to a knife fight holding a spoon. I think Bernie, this is who he is. He would only go up to a certain line. I think Biden was beatable. I think Bernie and his campaign strategy to deal with the corporate media wasn't all there. But overall, we wouldn't have the candidate success, the progressive victories in Congress, Sunrise Movement, Justice Democrats. None of this would be without Bernie Sanders running in 2016 and what he exploded. So he's still very influential in progressive politics. And earlier, I think this is from today. I'm going to read some of it to you. Bernie kind of laid the smackdown on corporate Democrats. This is from Bernie Sanders, published yesterday in USA Today. Corporate Democrats are talking so-called far-left policies. So let me read just a little bit. I am very proud of the hard work that the progressive community put into electing Joe Biden as our next president. And let's be clear, this election was not just a normal election between two candidates. It was much more important than that. It was an election about retaining our democracy, preserving the rule of law, blah, 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 blah. So let's get to him calling out the gaslighting. Now, with the blame game erupting,
corporate Democrats are attacking so-called far-left policies like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal for election defeats in the House and the Senate. They are dead wrong. Here are the facts, Bernie writes. 112 co-sponsors of Medicare for All were on the ballot in November. All 112 of them won their elections. 98 co-sponsors of the Green New Deal were on the ballot in November. Only one of them lost. It turns out that supporting universal health care during a pandemic and enacting major investments in renewable energy as we face the existential threat to our planet from climate change is not just good public policy, it's also good politics. According to an exit poll from Fox News, no bastion of socialism, 72% of voters favored the change to a government-run healthcare plan, and 70% of voters supported increasing government spending on green and renewable energy. The lesson is not to abandon popular policies like Medicare for All, a Green New Deal, a living wage, criminal justice reform, and universal child care, but to enact an agenda that speaks to the economic desperation being felt by the working class, Black, white, Latino, Asian, and Native Americans. People are hurting, and they are crying out for help. We must respond. And I want to just show you one tweet exchange I had today to kind of combat this propaganda. And sorry if I'm blowing up this guy's spot, but I don't really care. So, hold on. Where did I put it? Yes. So, Jen, I tweeted, I interviewed Crystal Ball. So I tweeted the clip, and then this guy. So this guy says, sorry, what works in California, in New York and California doesn't necessarily work in the middle of the country. There isn't a one-size-fits-all policy. Candidates have to run their campaigns based in their districts. Progressives have to understand that. Sanders would have lost in a landslide, by the way. So I responded, that's complete nonsense. Every single poll shows progressive policies, i.e. Bernie Sanders policies, have majority support across the country. In fact, a new Fox News poll showed 72% of Fox viewers supported government-run healthcare. It is a propaganda narrative that progressive policies wouldn't be popular when elections in certain parts of the country. The data and the polls show otherwise, and Bernie's electoral results show him very popular among independents and having decent numbers among Republicans. And then this guy went on, those policy stance didn't help here in Arizona. Most of the Dem congressional hopefuls here didn't get elected against the hard right Trump Republican candidates. So, what fellas like this guy doesn't understand is the reason that the Democratic candidates in Arizona, per se, are losing to the hard right Trump Republicans are because they're not running on anything. They're not running for anything. They're running against Trump. They're trying to tie their Republican opponents with Trump. And if people have a choice, they're going to go with the people that actually are open about what they stand for, the Republicans. Then the Democrats, that basically what they stand for is, I'm mildly more palatable than the Republican. So the bottom line is, whether it's Arizona, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Kentucky, whether it's Kansas, many, I'd say maybe half, 60% of Republicans on policies are closet progressives. And Bernie just showed you, you have these corporate Democrats ranting that defund the police and socialism is why they lost. Well, I don't really recall Democratic candidates running ads calling for defund the police. I remember when Republicans were running those spooky fear-mongering ads, all the Democratic candidates were saying, I'm not for defunding the police. I don't recall any of these candidates that lost running on Medicare for All. So Bernie's hitting them with facts, and the corporate Democrats, from Pelosi to Abigail Spanberger, I think her name is, to others, are continuing to, basically, it's really no different than Russiagate. It's really no different than any gaslighting. They're just making shit up.
Before I comment, we didn't say Mary Bishop's daughter's name, so I want to stop and take a minute to do that. So, welcome to the Status Coup membership. I hope I say this right. Mary, you spelled it out pretty well, so I hope I get it right. So, welcome, 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 Peyton Chizak. Welcome, Peyton. We're so glad to have you. And I don't know if I should say this out loud, but her membership is she is a former Tim Black supporter, a current Status Coup member. So Peyton, that makes you that gives me some love, extra love for you, and as being a new Status Coup member. Welcome, welcome, Peyton. We welcome you with open arms.
Welcome.
So about what you're saying, we say this all the time. It really comes down to the money. The only reason that these heartless, soulless, democratic creatures and operatives are against Medicare for all and are spewing these lies all over TV and wherever they have their platforms is because of money. It's because they're not going to make their money from the healthcare powers that be if they give in to Medicare for all. So Bernie Sanders rightly points out things, and I'll reiterate this, that 112 co-sponsors of Medicare for all were on the ballot in November. All 112 of them won their races. 98 co-sponsors of the Green New Deal were on the ballot in November. Only one of them have lost an election. So when these people, these Democrats, are trying to spin it as these are unwinnable policy positions, that is simply wrong. But even before we knew the results of these elections, we already know that these Democrats are wrong because Fox News polls are showing us that they're wrong. Even Republicans like Bernie Sanders style policies, even Republicans like Medicare for all, when it is presented to them in a way that isn't spun, when it is presented to them in a way that is human, in a way that makes sense. It is simply the human way to have healthcare. And it is the money that gets in the way. It is the money that stops, a Nancy Pelosi from hopping on board to a Medicare for all. And it only comes down to money. And thank God we have Bernie Sanders. Shit on him all you want. Be mad at him for dropping out of the primaries all you want. Call him a sellout all you want, although he is not. He's simply a good man who saw a fascist in the White House and wanted to do everything he could to stop it. Thank God we have him to point to the fact that the people want Medicare for all and that people can win, that politicians can win on these policy positions. We do have him to thank for the squad. We do have him to thank for the progressives who are now inspired to the Zoomers, the Zoomers and the millennials who will win in the future, who will win in 2022 and beyond. So it's sickening, though, that other Democrats, that these corporatist Democrats will continue to lie to the American people and convince the brunch crowd that it's not possible.
And let's just be clear why they're lying. Because, Pelosi's not an idiot. Abigail Spanberger's not an idiot. Steny Hoyer's not an idiot. None of them are idiots. They might be corrupt, but they're not idiots. They know very well what the polls say. They know full well how popular these positions are. They know full well that actually a lot of Republicans agree with these positions. They know full well, because they have pollsters and consultants that told them, guess what? All the propaganda about Bernie Sanders, he would lose by a landslider. Do you know that Bernie Sanders among independents is wildly popular? That in 2016 he wiped the floor with Hillary Clinton among independents in the Democratic primary? Do you know in his races in Vermont for Senate that he has won a considerable amount of Republican voters in Vermont? The governor of Vermont is Republican, and Bernie has won Republican voters. Bernie has gone to Kentucky and Mississippi and many states and had massive rallies. Of course, there are some Republicans that, they guns, grits, and, pro-life, and they're never going to go for Bernie Sanders or progressives. That's fine. But there are a lot of, why did so many Republicans go for this reality TV star, used car salesman? Because he was pushing a lot of things that Bernie pushes. He was full of shit. Trump was full of shit, but he was pushing ending the wars. Trump was in 2016. He was pushing enough with these free trade deals like NAFTA and TPP. There was some overlap between Bernie and Trump. And I could tell you because, again, when I covered Trump on the road in 2016, a lot of Trump supporters said, if not Trump, their second was Bernie. So this is all propaganda and bullshit. And the corporate media is going to push it, and we're going to hear the same ridiculous propaganda heading into 2022 that no. The only way that the Democrats can keep their narrow margin, well, why do they have a narrow margin now of a majority of the House? Why did they lose House seats? We just showed you the people that ran on Medicare for All, a Green New Deal, and progressive positions, they won. The people that lost ran on Trump's awful. My Republican opponent, Trump. My Republican opponent, I'm mildly better. Yeah, you lose when you run on morality, when you run on character, when you run on platitudes, and when you don't inspire people. You generally lose. That's what's going on. And, you know, we'll have to see. Jamal Bowman's not in yet. Cory Bush, not in yet. Mondaire Jones, I think his name is, not in yet. They'll come in January. I hope that with the reserve, you know, with new troops, I hope we stop calling Nancy, if you're progressives, enough calling Nancy Pelosi mama bears. I don't want to see no more Rolling Stone covers between AOC, the squad, and Nancy Pelosi. No more diplomacy, okay? The progressives held their nose, all of them, especially Rashida Tlaib. Biden probably doesn't win Michigan without Rashida Tlaib organizing and getting a lot of, like 94% of Detroit black people came out. Excuse me. Biden won 94% of Detroit. That's because Rashida Tlaib got the black people that didn't come out in 2016 for Hillary Clinton to come out for the father of the crime bill. So progressives have done their part, and no more of this diplomacy with President Biden, Pelosi, and these people. If during a pandemic they're going to maintain this milquetoast, expand Obamacare, we're going to war with them. If during a pandemic they're not offering some type of universal basic income, it's time for war. And I think that's, I'm not talking about violence, but I'm not naive. I don't think it's, you know, really likely we're going to move Biden left, but we can move public opinion further left and organize for 2022 and beyond. Thank you, Cheryl, $20. None of this would have happened without Bernie. He's a man of complete integrity whose movement gave the marginalized and working people hope, and this movement will continue. I agree.
Think about where we were on the public's opinion of Medicare for All in 2016. And I wish I had the numbers up here and now. I just don't. I can find those later. But think about where we were on Medicare for All. We were nowhere, really. But now think of where we are. Think of about where public opinion is on Medicare for All. That was Bernie. I'm not here trying to sell you on Bernie Sanders. It's just a fact. Bernie Sanders moved the Overton window on Medicare for All dramatically in 5 years. So if we have the power of, you know, the so-called squad, think about what we can do. Think about what a Cory Bush and a Rashida Tlaib can do. I'm hoping, you know, I'm not one of those people who's anti-AOC. I think AOC has done some great work, and I think for whatever reason she has that star quality, like that it girl factor. I'm hoping that she uses that for good and doesn't get sucked into the Nancy Pelosi, like, yes, queen, like bleeding of the party, whatever. I think she could go either way. I want more of her protesting with the Sunrise Movement in Nancy Pelosi's office and less of her like dressing in white on, as Jordan said, like on the covers of magazines. Think about, though, I hope that like Rashida Tlaib, I hope she and Cory Bush, for example, team up more, and that like Rashida Tlaib goes more of the Cory Bush side, and like imagine how powerful that will be. If you guys aren't as familiar with Cory Bush, she is a true boots on the ground activist, like an out there every night activist. Like she's the true mama bear. Like she's hardcore, gets stuff done, knows what is happening in her community, is very progressive. I have really, really high hopes for her. Rashida Tlaib, I wish she never took her comments about Hillary back, but she did say them. And I think that she is someone who won't really get sucked in. So I have a lot of hopes, but you also can't really pin your hopes on politicians. And we do have to remember that these people are politicians. These people do work for us. And we have to keep fighting. We have to keep fighting to put people in who will push these policy positions, and we have to hold everybody accountable. Even though I'm admittedly, I think Bernie's a great person. I love Bernie's policy positions. At the end of the day, he is a politician, and politicians aren't our friends. So we have to focus on policy first and always. And I do think we can get stuff done, but we have to focus. We can't let the Democrats, we can't let the DNC make us think that it's impossible. And we can't let the nihilists out there, these ridiculous so-called progressives who make me so angry, who are so nihilistic and so negative. And we were talking about this on the Discord. Like they don't include anyone except for people who think exactly like them. They're like, burn it all down people. No one is ever good enough. You have to think like them or nothing. They are nihilistic, even if they won't admit it. Like, forget those people. They're never going to accomplish anything. Nothing's ever going to be good enough. The rest of us can focus on achieving. So.
And I'll say one person we can call Mama Bear. Jacqueline DeBlue, 100 pounds. Holy cow.
Jacqueline.
My favorite Mama Bear across the pond. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I will never crap, they don't want the other word, on Bernie. I might consider Obama, though, whom I now dislike as much as I used to like him. I didn't know. In other news, Hazy and I are indeed inactive members now, but Juliet is still going strong. Thank you so much for the 100 pounds. And Jacqueline, you and at this point, I'm seeing about 12 to 15 emails there's now a lot of evidence that members have been made inactive who didn't actually cancel, but through a technical glitch that we are now working on behind the scenes, people were made inactive. So thankfully, I mean, we haven't restored them, but thankfully it seems that what was appearing optically to us as if we were losing 20 to 30 members a day, it seems like this is a technical glitch, and we do have these website developers that are actually viewers. So we really appreciate that our viewers who happen to be web developers reached out to us. Jen and I had a conference call with them last night, and they're now working on fixing this issue. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. 100 pounds, and we'll also, Jen, could you write down that note to tell them to restore her to her membership?
Yeah. I want to make sure we didn't forget this. Grove Echo, $20 in the super chat from earlier on. Swirly Swirlet said super chat not working. Up to my membership tier after it kicked me off. John Ward Jr., $5 in the super chat. I'm not going to say I'm a genius. We the citizens are elected officials courts to get them to remove no more protests, but removal. I know how to do it. Ryan Wellman, Jesus Christ, this is Chapo Trap House on literal meth. I'll take that as a compliment.
I'd love the money they make.
Yeah, that's for sure. Artificial Marfusman, $10 in the super chat. I sure hope Bernie denounces the DNC and the media for using Kasich to back their blaming progressives for the DNC-backed centrist moderate candidate losses. Yeah, what the heck? Like, on what planet are these ridiculous lunatics like grabbing hold of Kasich and not Bernie Sanders? Weirdos. I think we have them all now.
Michael Williams, $20. Michael Williams. People could say they are for all kinds of things, but what matters is what they actually vote for, and they didn't vote for didn't vote for Medicare for all. If those stupid polls matter, then Bernie should have won by 80%. Actually, Michael, you're half right, because in the Democratic primary, every single state in the Democratic primary, the majority of voters in the exit polls said they support Medicare for all. They voted for Joe Biden despite being for Medicare for all, and a big part of that is the corporate media propaganda. that fed them that Joe Biden was the most electable, the safest, blah, 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 blah. And that's because we don't yet have a coordinated way to counter the corporate media propaganda, but we'll continue to fight it. Did you want to say something, Jen?
I just had a thought.
Okay.
That we should have shut down joining as a member.
Why?
Because they're transferring the site.
Oh boy.
Just, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, so we're caught up on Super Chats. I want the one last topic. Let's take a complete detour to Jeffrey Epstein.
We're doing Epstein. Okay, yeah.
Let's go, Jen. Tee it up.
How are we going to do it, though? Because you have the screen.
Yes, I don't have it, so maybe you could just read it to the people, and they'll just have to.
Okay, I'll give like a Cliff's Notes. Let me pull it up somehow, some way. Let me pull it up.
And you can continue. Well, you can continue, by the way, donating to our GoFundMe. We've been getting so many nice donations. Keep it coming if you can.
Why don't you, while I find this quickly, why don't you talk a little bit about this weekend? What's probably coming this weekend?
Oh yeah, so I love the name. Apparently they're billing it as a Million MAGA March, if you remember the Million Man March. So a Million MAGA March. My guess is it will probably be closer to a couple thousand. But in D.C. and I guess other parts of the country, MAGA heads are uniting to quote-unquote stop the steal in their alternate reality, to contest the election, even though more and more state elected officials are coming out, from Secretary of States to the various states that Trump has been citing election fraud in, to election supervisors saying there's no fraud here. They are marching in D.C. and elsewhere, so we are going to be covering that in D.C. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe it will be 1 million people. I don't know. But we will be covering it. I think it's Saturday. So definitely stay tuned for Status Coup, right in the middle of an alternate reality known as Trump land.
It's going to have some really exciting and interesting figures there. The Hodge twins, Jack Posobiec, Michelle Malkin, Brandon Straka, Ashley St. Clair, Jaden McNeil, who, by the way, Jaden McNeil is one of the guys that I did. He's a groiper, and I did a report on him, and that's when I got inundated by groipers on this channel. Alex Jones, Cernovich, Scott Pressler, Nick Fuentes, lead groiper, Bryson Gray, Owen Schroyer. So it's going to be all the.
Where's Roger Stone?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen Roger Stone's. Like, where is Roger Stone? Get me Roger Stone.
He must be in hiding. I don't know. So what's the latest on Jeffrey Epstein and the quote suicide?
Okay, so Epstein, nothing good, nothing good, nothing even resembling justice. So I'm gonna just give kind of bullet points of the AP's reporting. So Justice Department, poor judgment used in Epstein plea deal. So to kind of give you some background on what they are talking about, there was a non-prosecution deal given in the early aughts for Jeffrey Epstein. So if you think back to when all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff blew up last year, before Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, aka Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. You might remember that there was like some hubbub about former labor secretary of Trump's, Alex Acosta. So Alex Acosta was involved in the early aughts deal of Jeffrey Epstein. So basically, Jeffrey Epstein was finally going to be held to account back then in the 2000s. And of course, he had some like high-powered lawyers. So they came up with this non-prosecution deal, which basically that means, okay, we'll come up with, we think we might not be able to prosecute you for this, but we think you did it. So let's come up with a deal, like kind of a sweetheart deal. So we'll get you on it, but it won't be as bad as if you were prosecuted. So this sweetheart deal essentially gave him 2 years of punishment. He ended up only serving 13 months, and he got to leave for like more than half of the day and just go wherever he wanted. Not wherever he wanted, but it was like this really cushy place. So you just got to go do whatever. And he really never served any justice. And I think it was only he only got in trouble for one young girl. They put it under a prostitution charge. So it wasn't even put under like a young, like that he had raped a young girl. They put it under prostitution. So basically he got in no trouble. It was hidden from the victims. So it was not disclosed to them. So he had this NP and non-prosecution agreement, NPA. So really shady. Alex Acosta, totally involved, super horrible. So yeah.
Can I just interject?
Yeah.
Another thing that I learned through the documentary on Netflix is not only was this a shady prosecution deal, but they kind of did it in the quiet of the night, where the victims were not even informed that they were basically making this deal with him. Because normally victims, before a deal would be made, might be given the opportunity to speak in a court, to share their stories. Do I have that right, Jen?
I just said that, yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
You said it more eloquently, I guess. But yes, that is totally true. So they weren't informed, and then they tried to find out, the victims tried to find out more information. They were essentially told to go to hell. So when Alex Acosta was being questioned before he became labor secretary, he was hardly questioned on this at all. So Epstein got away with this. He continued to hobnob with the elite. He continued to do what he was doing. And he didn't get in trouble really at all until 2019. And as we know, that was short-lived because he was then not committing suicide, whatever. He died. So then it was looked into. And this is where we are today. So Justice Department, poor judgment used an Epstein plea deal. So a Justice Department report has found former Labor Secretary Alex Acosta exercised poor judgment in handling an investigation into wealthy financier. By the way, nobody knows how Epstein made his money. Nobody knows. When he was a top federal prosecutor in Florida, but also says that he did not engage in professional misconduct. So again, Alex Acosta made this shady deal where Jeffrey Epstein essentially did not get in trouble. He only had the one prostitution charge, had to register as a sex offender. That's it. Clearly wrong by Alex Acosta. So today, by the Justice Department released this executive summary. It's about 13 pages. You can read it. It's right on the DOJ's website. I can link to it if I find it. I have it. Yeah, I have it saved in my pocket folder. I'll pop it in the chat after this. But let's see. Though the report faulted Acosta for his judgment, it concluded that his actions in arranging the deal did not constitute misconduct, and that none of the prosecutors involved committed misconduct in their interactions with the victims. So obviously the victims are very disappointed with this. In a statement, Acosta expressed vindication at the report's conclusion that he had not committed misconduct, saying it fully debunks allegations that he had cut a sweetheart deal for Epstein, which of course he did. So Acosta's statement said, OPR's report and public records document that without federal involvement, Epstein would have walked free. So he is defending the non-prosecution agreement, saying that's really the only way they could have gotten him. Because again, the NPA was done because they didn't think they could prosecute him, according to them. Epstein was later charged by federal prosecutors in Manhattan for nearly identical allegations in 2019, but took his own life while in federal custody as he awaited trial. Let's see here. So it goes on and on. The report concludes that prosecutors did not commit misconduct in their interactions with the victims because there was no clear and unambiguous duty to consult with them before entering into the non-prosecution agreement, which I think is ridiculous. But it says the lack of consultation reflected poorly on the Justice Department and is contradictory to the department's mission to minimize the frustration and confusion that victims of crime endure. So this article continues on. It's basically a bunch of BS that helps no one, that essentially sweeps this completely under the rug. And once again, the people, obviously Epstein is dead, but Alex Acosta, of course, did wrong. And this is horrible that he's not going to be held to account, that none of the people who gave this absolute sweetheart of a deal to Epstein are going to be held to account. So,
and I mean, nobody goes to jail for Flint. Nobody goes to jail for Epstein. He killed himself, which is, you know, to me, laughable. And frankly, you know, when Alex Acosta says, "Oh, this was the best we could get. If we didn't do this, we wouldn't have got anything." Well, then why did federal prosecutors come in and give him toss that out and give him a much harsher deal? Why could they find a way to give him a much, much harsher sentence where it's likely he would have, if he didn't kill himself, he was facing the rest of his life in prison? But Alex Acosta couldn't figure it out. I'm sure, you know, Jeffrey Epstein's money and Jeffrey Epstein's accomplices' money and politicians who were in the same circles as Jeffrey Epstein had nothing to do. And it wasn't even, I mean, sweetheart deal is an understatement. It was a fucking bed and breakfast. He was at a bed and breakfast. And by the way, when he was given work release, you know, when he went to his office or wherever the hell he went, reports are they brought women in to there. So during his prison sentence, he had young girls coming in there for his massages or whatever the fuck he was making them do. So it's outrageous. Just because Epstein's dead doesn't mean people shouldn't be brought to justice. Jen, I mean, you know way more than I than this, but I don't really know what's taken so long with Ghislaine Maxwell. And, you know, I'd like some more information on Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and whoever else was part of this, because all of them were part of it. And to this day, let's be clear, Bill Clinton was on that island, and he lied and said he wasn't on that island. He was on that island, and he says he wasn't. So that's a definitive lie, but the media lets Bill Clinton get away with all sorts of lies over the last 20 years.
Yeah, so I have, you know, I have Pacer emailing me whenever there's a new entry on the docket. And so I wait like with bated breath every time Pacer emails a new entry, and it's always like, it's just nothing. And so I have no idea what's taking so long. They keep making it Pacer, if you guys aren't familiar, it just, it has like all the major court cases. You can like look up all the court filings, like all the stuff on the docket. So yeah, it's like nothing. It's never anything important. Just you know, we have the stuff from the 2015 depositions from Virginia Roberts Giuffre, and Ghislaine's came out last month, but we have no real movement forward. And I don't think, like, it feels too good to be true that we will ever have any movement forward. These people are too rich and too powerful. There's suspected intelligence ties, both with Jeffrey Epstein, certainly with Ghislaine Maxwell's father, which is, you got to look him up. That stuff's wild. So I think the key to all of this is, how in the hell did Jeffrey Epstein make his money? And it's so frustrating. And why in God's name did Leslie Wexner give Jeffrey Epstein that insane freaking mansion right in the middle of the Upper East Side? It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. And it's so frustrating. And at the heart of this are these poor girls. And will they get justice? I don't know.
Oh, I agree. All right, folks, we're closing up shop. Before we go, I should say, winter is coming. Do you have your Status Coup swag?
Winter is
Do
coming.
you have your Status Coup swag? Your hoodies, your long sleeve shirts, your blankets, posters,
I'm wearing a long sleeve Status Coup shirt.
iPhone covers. I mean, that's not winter related, but you get the point. Definitely go to our store. I'll put it in the super chat, and get your Status Coup swag, so that you're rocking it, and staying cozy. And maybe you live in Florida or somewhere that's not necessarily cold during the winter. We also have short sleeves and beach towels and a whole lot of other things. So check out.
Doggy hoodie.
Yes, we also have doggy hoodies for you.
Oh, I think Rusty's might be there.
Oh, I'll have to ask my mom if they got it. So definitely get your swag. It's also another way to support us. We don't get all the money from the store, but we get most of it. Oh, socks too. My wife just reminded me. There's socks in there. All sorts of fanny packs. I mean, mugs. I mean, it's really incredible. I got to get more Status Coup swag. So definitely check it out. I want to also, we got some more GoFundMe love. So thank you, Anonymous, $50. Whoa.
Monica, $20. Dave, $5. So keep it coming on the GoFundMe. We're almost at our next milestone of $129,000 raised. And don't think that we have
$128,000. We don't have $128,000 just sitting there. We've spent a lot of money in real time to cover reporting, travel, and all those things. So definitely, if you can, contribute to the GoFundMe. What were you saying, Jen?
No, I was just telling them I put in the DOJ Epstein doc, which is really interesting.
Okay, got it. So thank you for watching.
For nerds.
Thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow, and keep spreading the coup to your friends, your family, your dogs. Subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.